Welcome, Getaway 2020 virtual edition. My name is Daniel Apollo Chacon, and today I am here with Leslie Amar. We're really excited. Today's video is going to be on the spouse and the caretaker perspective of a burn survivor. Thank you for watching this series, and we're excited to have Leslie with us. So, please, Leslie, let's just start off by you sharing, in your perspective, what happened to you and to your family.
Basically what happened to me and our family is our entire family was blown apart by Bob's burn accident. But though it was a terrible thing that happened to us, I think ultimately it was maybe one of the best things that happened to us in retrospect. At the time, yeah, it was a nightmare.
And for those of you who haven't seen it, we encourage you to watch Bob's full story as she shared in the Burn Perspective video. But Leslie, can you share with us, you spent some long nights and days at that bedside with Bob. Who was your support as you were supporting your husband?
That's so funny that you should mention that, because I didn't get any support in the hospital at all, none. So that was kind of rough because it allowed my head to go places where, I probably shouldn't have gone. The nurses were lovely. I mean, until I actually found burn survivors to help me, to reach out and help me, which happened several weeks into the injury, I was pretty much on my own, which is scary.
Yeah. Thinking about those memories, what kind of feelings do you remember experiencing? Your husband, who is probably the breadwinner, the one taking care of the father of your children.
Mortgage. Yeah, when Bob got hurt, I thought we were going to lose our house. I had never really paid the bills, so I didn't even really know how to do it. I'm embarrassed to admit, but it's true. And then you go through the bit with your kids, the insecurity of it all. And then you start feeling like, ugh, is he going to be okay? Is he going to live? What's he going to look like? Which is the shallow thing to say, but it's reality. How is he going to deal with looking different than he was before? How is society going to treat us? I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot on our plates.
And those are all common questions and thoughts that come through the caregiver's mind during this process. And you're also taking care of the survivor as you have this. So it's a lot of physical and emotional demand that's going on. And you have, at this time, you have children at home. So how did you manage that?
Well, our children had to go live with other people for a few months while I dealt with Bob, which was hard. And we tried to get together as much as possible at the hospital. The kids were pretty cool about things, at least to our faces, they were cool about it. And they made friends with the nurses, and they were performing for the other patients in the hospital. I mean, we made the best of it, but it was a pretty tough situation. I mean, and everybody at their school was super supportive, and that helped. Everybody knew, so our kids had support there. But yeah, it was ugly. It was an ugly time.
And you know best than anyone else that someone's journey is not just even that hospital, right? So just being discharged is just the beginning of a long journey of recovery, not only physically, but emotionally. Can you share about your feelings regarding after he left the hospital and the years after that?
Yeah, we were, well, okay. I don't know that Bob was scared, but I was really scared. The kids acted like they were cool with everything. I'm sure they couldn't have been. We just probably didn't articulate our fears. But yeah, it was rough when he got out of the hospital, and I noticed people were staring at us a lot. We're an interracial couple, so Bob would always say, "Oh no, they're just looking at us because of that." It's like, yeah, no, Bob, I don't think they are actually. But yeah, it was difficult. It was difficult being the center of attention even more than we normally were, and for all the wrong reasons. But I tried to act like I didn't notice for his sake, but I noticed. Believe me, I noticed people being ugly with us. Bob's always had a really good attitude about everything, and I think that that really helped. Oh my gosh, it's been 1999. I'm still triggered talking about this. But yeah, Bob's had a really good attitude, and I guess I was just trying to protect him from people being ugly.
And we hear this often, and Bob actually mentioned it in terms of the shirt that you had bought him, and how that shirt like was a defense mechanism of like already knowing what they were saying. But what were some of those feelings when you would go out with your family and people's reaction to him?
Well, I can remember this. This sounds crazy, but I can remember the right side of his body was burned. So whenever we would go into a booth, I would always try to sit on the side that other people could see to like hide him. Just instinctively, I would try to hide him, protect him from other people. I'm not sure he even realizes it to this day because he's just kind of happy-go-lucky about everything. And I think because he had that attitude, it helped him get along better probably than the rest of us.
You mentioned the power of peer support, and a lot of times I think people who are new to the burn community think peer support is only for the burn survivors, right?
Oh
And
my God, no, yes.
it's the caregivers that I think, especially acute care and then afterwards, who really need that person, someone else who knows what they're going through, someone else who can relate to it. Tell me about maybe the first time or the first couple of times you found another spouse or found another caregiver who got it and what that meant to you.
It was like all of a sudden you're not alone. It was like you've been wandering through the desert with no water and somebody showed up with a big fat drink. No, seriously, it changed everything. Actually, it changed the entire experience. Just being able to talk about it with somebody who understood without judgment, and to know that you're not alone. You know, when I thought I was by myself thinking those thoughts because I didn't want to say them to him, finding another caregiver, I could say those things to them, and we would all get together and commiserate. And oh my gosh, it just my very first retreat, the bird survivors were in one room and the caregivers were in another, and we could hear each other through the wall, just muffled sounds. And when we did our retreat, all the caregivers were just crying. All of us were just bawling. We're passing tissues. We're acting ridiculous, and all of a sudden we hear this giant rolls of laughter from the room next door because the survivors are having a great old time. I don't know what was happening over there, but the caregivers, we were having emotional meltdowns. I think that's kind of indicative of a caregiver. It's a lot, and it's a lot that you don't feel comfortable sharing with other people unless
That
they've been through.
that is so true. And that peer support is a great way of self-care and taking care of yourself. Um, could you maybe share some other tips for other caregivers on how you learn to take care of yourself during this process? Because I think a lot of times your focus becomes so much on taking that shift of you're no longer their wife, you're no longer the husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, the significant other, you're now the
Mhm.
caregiver. So your role has completely changed. How do you find that role again and how do you take care of yourself?
Um, that's such an interesting question because when you are the caregiver, you're no longer the loving, kind wife. You kind of have to, you you have to do everything, and nobody can do everything. So I think the thing that really helped me the most was finding the burn community and actually giving back to other caregivers. That's what helped me the most. Um, I guess it helps you put things in perspective, gives you a little bit of maturity on the situation, and it helps you realize that just that feeling of not being alone, that's what helped me. Once I realized I'm not doing this by myself, and that helped me feel better about everything.
That's great. Any final words that you would give to a spouse or a significant other of a new burn, or someone who's just been struggling? You know, I think sometimes the burn injury and the healing process is more of an up and down and ebbs and flows rather than a linear increase. And sometimes
Mhm.
you're fine, and other times, you know, you may not communicate, or you might be having some emotional issues related to the burn or not related to the burn. So what advice would you give to other spouses?
Give yourself a break, to not be so hard on yourself, and to realize that just because this horrible thing has happened this minute, it's not going to be that horrible thing forever. And it's hard to realize that when it first happens, but there is going to be a time where this is not going to be the worst thing that ever happened to you, and there is going to be a time where you're going to be okay. It's just hard to see in the beginning. And I have to tell you that this is going to sound really strange. I have to tell you that Bob getting burned was the worst, best thing that ever happened to us. We've increased our family 1,000,000% by being part of the burn community. People I never normally would have met in normal life are so important to me now that I absolutely love and care for. We hang out, we come visit, support each other. But at the time when this was going down, there's no way you could have convinced me that this was going to end up being a good thing. But it has ended up being a good thing. We're closer to our kids, we're closer to each other, and it just puts a spotlight on your relationship, and you got to step up, and it's possible. I didn't think it was, but it is.
Those are some great ending words. I say often in support groups and in programs, burn injuries only amplify what is already going on. So if there's
Exactly.
issues related to your relationship with your significant other or with your children, it's going to amplify that. But what you said in terms of you got to put in that work, you got to actually focus on it and acknowledge, you know, what's going on, and yet like you are going to make it, and it will make your relationship stronger when you put in the work together. So great words, wise words from a wise woman. Thank you, Leslie, for an amazing time of discussion about your perspective as a spouse of a burn survivor, and really what you went through. This conversation could be so much longer than it is today, but I want to thank you for being a part of this, and I want to thank everyone for watching. For more information on Lily Sandrush Burn Foundation or our programs, please go to our website at www.aarbf.org. Thank you so much, Leslie, again for being a part of this, and thank you guys. Bye-bye.